Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever found yourself surrounded by all the buzz, AI this, Gen AI that, feeling like everyone's diving in, but then you kind of pause and wonder, is this actually making a real difference where it counts, or is it just a lot of buzz?
That's the fascinating paradox we're going to dig into today. Widespread adoption of generative AI, but seemingly minimal tangible business impact. To really get to the heart of this, we're doing a deep dive into a, frankly, really insightful report from McKinsey Company. It's from June 2025, called Seizing the Agentic AI Advantage. Quite a mouthful, but important stuff.
It really is. It's kind of a sobering mirror for every executive, really. What's truly fascinating here is that while nearly 8 out of 10 companies say they're using generative AI somewhere, just as many report seeing no significant bottom line impact, zero, or close to it. And this report, it doesn't just state the paradox, it really digs into why it's happening and, maybe more importantly, what we can actually do about it. Exactly. So our mission here today in this deep dive is not just to understand this Gen AI paradox, right? It's also to uncover how this newer idea, agentic AI, could be the absolute key to unlocking its full transformative potential. We'll explore what this means for you as you're navigating this, well, let's face it, rapidly changing landscape. Okay, so let's start with the core problem. This Gen AI paradox. The numbers. They're pretty stark, aren't they? Before Gen AI even exploded onto the scene, traditional AI already had immense potential, huge. We were talking estimated global impact, like $11 trillion to $18 trillion, powering everything from marketing to supply chains, big stuff. But then ChatGPT launched, and bam, the world changed.
It really did. Fast forward 2.5 years and the landscape looks drastically different. Now you've got 78% of companies using Gen AI in at least one business function. That's a massive jump from just 55% a year before, a huge uptake.
But here's the rub, right? The paradox part.
Exactly. Here's the kicker. Despite that explosive adoption, over 80% of those companies report no material contribution to their earnings. It's almost as if everyone's excited to adopt Gen AI, kick the tires. But the hard truth, very few are seeing actual returns. And only 1% of enterprises feel their Gen AI strategies are actually mature. 1%.
Wow. That's incredible. So what's really going on beneath the surface here? Why this gap? Why are companies getting stuck between, I guess, the enthusiasm and the actual impact?
Well, the core issue, and the report highlights this really well, seems to be an imbalance between horizontal and vertical use cases. Horizontal use cases, that's what most companies are familiar with right now. Think enterprise-wide copilots, chatbots. Microsoft 365 Copilot is a great example, used by nearly 70% of Fortune 500 companies. These are, relatively speaking, easy to implement. They give everyone access to AI, democratize it, and they definitely enhance individual productivity. No doubt. Saving time, finding info, drafting emails, useful stuff.
Okay, so if these tools are widely deployed and they are making individuals more productive, why isn't that translating to the bottom line? Is it maybe that companies are just feeling productive without actually being more impactful overall?
I think that's precisely the challenge. While these horizontal tools are everywhere, their benefits are often, they're diffuse, spread out. And they're incredibly hard to measure in terms of actual top-line revenue or bottom-line profit. They save a few minutes here, a few minutes there, across thousands of people maybe. But that doesn't easily add up to measurable earnings.
Right. Makes sense. So what about the other side, the vertical use cases?
Okay, so on the other hand, you have vertical use cases. These are function-specific, deeply embedded into core business processes. Things like intelligent demand forecasters for a supply chain, or maybe negotiation assistants for a sales team. Very specific. Now, these have a much higher potential for direct economic impact. You can see how they can move the needle.
Yeah.
But, and it's a big but, fewer than 10% of them ever make it past the pilot stage. They get stuck. And even when they are deployed, they often operate reactively. They just support isolated steps. They don't really transform the whole process.
Okay. So it sounds like the big promise is there, the potential is huge, but the execution is hitting a wall. So what specific things are holding back these high-impact vertical use cases? Why are they stalling?
The report breaks it down into 6 main factors. Pretty clear list. First, fragmented initiatives. Lots of companies have this bottom-up kind of granular approach. Little projects popping up everywhere. And less than 30% of CEOs are directly sponsoring the main AI agenda. So it leads to disconnected efforts, scattered investments. They just don't add up strategically.
Yeah, everyone doing their own little thing, but no big picture driving it.
Exactly. Second, there's a lack of mature packaged solutions. Unlike those off-the-shelf copilots, these vertical use cases, they often need custom development. And companies frequently lack the specialized MLO of engineers, people who actually productionize these models to industrialize them and deploy them properly at scale.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. A brilliant model sitting in a lab isn't much use, is it? It's not just about building a cool model. It's about making it work reliably in the messy real world, day in, day out.
Precisely. Third, we're still seeing technological limitations with these first-generation LLMs. I mean, despite how powerful they seem, they can still produce inaccurate outputs, hallucinations, right? It makes them hard to trust for really critical tasks.
Yeah.
They're also fundamentally passive. They don't do anything unless you prompt them, and they often struggle with complex, multi-step workflows. Plus, many have limited persistent memory, so keeping track of context over time is hard.
Okay, tech limits. What else?
Fourth, siloed AI teams. You often have these centers of excellence, great for prototyping, building cool demos, but they often operate separately from the core business and IT. So deep integration and scaling across the enterprise, that becomes really difficult.
The classic silo problem.
Yep. Fifth, data accessibility and quality gaps. This is a perennial issue, right? Especially for unstructured data text, images, audio. It's often ungoverned, messy, hard for AI to really leverage effectively. Garbage in, garbage out still applies. And finally, number 6, cultural apprehension and organizational inertia. Good old human factors. Fear of disruption, worries about jobs, and just a general lack of familiarity with how to truly integrate AI into daily operations. Change is hard.
So it's a real mix then. Technical limits, sure, but also organizational silos, data issues, and just people being people. But despite all these limitations, this first wave of Gen AI, it wasn't wasted, right? It sounds like it did lay some important groundwork for whatever comes next.
Absolutely not wasted. Think of it more like laying the foundational plumbing, essential groundwork. Organizations got familiar with the tech. They started building crucial capabilities like prompt engineering. They began wrestling with governance issues. All of that sets the stage for a pretty powerful evolution.
Okay, so if first Gen AI laid the groundwork but couldn't quite, scale the mountain, what is the game changer? What comes next that can maybe redefine how we interact with AI?
The report points very clearly to a powerful answer: AI agents. These agents represent a major evolution from those first-gen LLMs we've been talking about. While LLMs are great at, reactive content generation, you ask, it answers agents go much, much further. The real revelation here isn't just their capability, though. It's the shift. The shift from AI as a reactive tool to AI as an autonomous, proactive partner.
Autonomous, proactive, that sounds like a big difference.
It is. Agents can understand overarching goals. They can break those goals down into subtasks. They can interact seamlessly with both humans and other systems, databases, APIs, you name it. They execute actions, learn, and adapt in real time. And critically, they do all this with minimal human intervention. They pull this off by combining LLMs with other sophisticated components, things from memory, planning, orchestrating actions, deep system integration. So we move beyond just automating tasks to potentially automating judgment and action.
Yeah.
That fundamentally changes the nature of work itself.
Wow, okay, that is a huge leap. So this isn't just about getting more efficient anymore. It sounds like agents could supercharge operational agility and unlock entirely new ways to make money, a dual impact. How do they transform operations specifically? What does that look like?
Well, they essentially redefine how processes run. The report points out 5 key ways this happens. First, they accelerate execution. They can eliminate human delays, enable parallel processing, really slash cycle times. Second, they bring adaptability. They can continuously ingest data, tweak process flows on the fly, flag anomalies automatically. Third, personalization. They can tailor interactions, decisions, offers to individual profiles in real time, at scale, much better than static rules. Fourth, elasticity. Their digital capacity can expand or contract instantly based on workload. Need more power? It's there. Things quiet down, it scales back. And finally, fifth, they increase resilience. They can monitor for disruptions, supply chain issues, system outages, and automatically reroute operations or escalate only when truly necessary.
That makes the whole process sound almost alive, like it's self-optimizing. Can you give us a concrete example? Make it real for us.
Absolutely. Let's take a complex supply chain. Imagine an AI agent acting as an autonomous orchestration layer. It sits across sourcing, warehousing, distribution, everything. It's connected to all the relevant internal systems, external data feeds weather, shipping info, market trends. So it could continuously forecast demand, identify potential risks like a port strike or a transportation delay. Then it could dynamically replan transport routes, reallocate stock between warehouses, even negotiate directly with external supplier systems to find alternatives. That's a profound shift, isn't it? From a human frantically coordinating different systems to an agent intelligently managing the entire flow end to end.
Yeah, that's night and day. And it's not just about making things run smoother. You mentioned agents can actually drive top-line revenue growth too, right?
Yes, in two main ways, according to the report. First, they can amplify existing revenues. Think about e-commerce. An agent could proactively analyze a user's real-time behavior on the site and then surface highly tailored upselling or cross-selling offers instantly, not based on old data, but what they're doing right now. Or maybe in finance, agents helping customers discover personalized products or investment options they didn't even know existed or might need.
Okay, so making current business better. What about new streams?
That's maybe even more exciting. They can help create entirely new revenue streams. Imagine industrial companies embedding agents in their connected products, machinery, equipment. These agents could monitor usage, predict failures, and maybe even autonomously unlock premium features based on usage patterns. This enables things like pay-per-use models or outcome-based subscriptions on physical assets, totally new business models. Or think about service organizations, law firms, consultants that can encapsulate their specialized expertise, like complex legal reasoning or intricate tax interpretation, into AI agents that they offer as software as a service tools or APIs directly to their clients, selling expertise at scale.
Okay, this isn't just theory then. This is where the rubber meets the road. I'm really keen to hear. Does the report give concrete examples of this actually working? Real-world results? Yes, it does, and they're pretty compelling. Take case study 1. A large bank trying to modernize its legacy core system. Huge project. We're talking a $600 million effort dealing with 400 different pieces of software. The old way was manual, slow, super error-prone. Nightmare stuff. With an agentic approach, human workers now supervise squads of AI agents. These agents do the heavy lifting, retroactively documenting old code, writing new code, reviewing it, integrating it, and the impact. Get this, a greater than 50% reduction in time and effort in the early adopter teams. 50%. That's a massive return.
Huge and transformative for a project like that.
Then there's case study 2, a research firm drowning in data quality issues. They had over 500 people just gathering and structuring data, but still 80% of the errors were being caught by clients. Not good. Now, an agentic solution, actually a multi-agent solution, autonomously identifies anomalies in the data, explains why sales or market share shifted, synthesizes the drivers, and surfaces insights. The result, a potential productivity gain of over 60% and expected annual savings of more than $3 million.
Again, shifting from manual drudgery to automated insight.
Exactly. And one more, case study 3. A retail bank where relationship managers were spending weeks, manually digging through 10-plus data sources just to write credit risk memos. Imagine that bottleneck. The agentic approach uses agents to automatically extract data from all those sources, draft sections of the memo, generate confidence scores for the analysis, and even suggest follow-up questions for the human manager to ask. The impact here, a potential productivity boost between 20 and 60%, plus a 30% improvement in credit decision turnaround time. Faster decisions, happier customers, less risk. These aren't just small tweaks, These are real-world bottom-line results.
Absolutely. And these examples really underscore a critical point the report makes. Realizing AI's full potential, it requires process reinvention, real reinvention. It's not enough to just insert agents into your existing, maybe clunky legacy workflows. That gives you some benefit, sure, but the real magic happens when you re-architect the entire task flow from the ground up, designing it around agent capabilities. If you just plug agents into an old, inefficient process, well, they might become faster assistants, but the fundamental process is still sequential, still constrained by human handoffs.
Okay, so layering automation versus truly a re-architecture.
Exactly. Let's illustrate this with, say, a customer call center example. The report uses this kind of evolution. Stage 1, Gen AI enabled. Humans are still in charge, but AI tools help them out finding info, summarizing calls. Helpful, gives you maybe a 5-10% productivity gain, modest. Stage 2, agent enabled, but optimized. Here, agents automate specific tasks within the existing workflow, classifying tickets, handling password resets, that kind of thing. Now you see a bigger impact, maybe 20-40% time savings, significant backlog reduction. Much better.
Okay, significant improvement, but still working within the old process structure. What's the final stage?
Stage 3 is where the real transformation kicks in. Agent enabled and reinvented. Here, the entire process is redesigned around agent autonomy. Agents proactively detect issues, diagnose problems, initiate resolutions, maybe even communicate directly with customers for standard issues. Humans. They become escalation managers, handling the complex exceptions the agents can't. Problem solvers, not process executors. In this model, the potential is huge. Maybe up to 80% of common incidents resolved autonomously, and a 60 to 90% reduction in resolution time, this full reinvention. It makes sense for processes that are complex, cross-functional, maybe prone to lots of exceptions, or really tightly linked to core business performance.
Okay, so reinvention is key for unlocking that massive potential. But doing that sounds like it requires more than just good agents. It needs a whole new technical foundation, right?
It absolutely does. To truly scale agents and enable that kind of reinvention, companies need a new AI architecture paradigm. The report called it the Agentic AI Mesh. And this isn't just, bolting on a few new components. It's a fundamental architectural shift, a new way of thinking about enterprise systems. Think of it almost like an internal internet designed specifically for AI agents within your company. It's designed to be composable, distributed, and crucially, vendor agnostic, allowing multiple agents may be built by different teams or vendors to reason together, collaborate, and act autonomously, securely and at scale, across all your different systems, tools, and even different language models.
An internet for agents, I like that. So it creates an ecosystem where different AIs can easily talk to each other and work together no matter who built them or what specific brain they use.
Precisely. It's based on 5 key design principles that reinforce each other. Composability, like Lego bricks. Any agent or tool can be plugged in without needing major system rework. Very flexible. Distributed intelligence. Complex problems get solved by networks of cooperating agents, almost like a team of specialized human experts working together. Layered decoupling. The different parts of an agent, its decision logic, its memory, how it manages actions are kept separate, makes them modular, easier to upgrade one part without breaking everything. Then, vendor neutrality. This is really important. It emphasizes using open standards. The report mentions things like MCP and A2A so agents can talk to each other using common protocols, regardless of the underlying vendor tech. Avoids lock-in. And finally, governed autonomy. This isn't chaos. Agent behavior is proactively controlled through embedded policies and guardrails. You set the rules of engagement.
Okay, that mesh sounds complex, but powerful. What about the LLMs themselves? Do they need to change too?
Oh, absolutely. The LLMs powering these agents also need to evolve significantly for this agentic future. Think about it. They need to be incredibly fast, low latency inference for real-time decision making. They need to be highly adaptable through fine-tuning for specific company tasks and data. They need to be lightweight enough to be deployed almost anywhere, maybe even on devices. They need to be capable of coordinating potentially hundreds or thousands of other agents, flawlessly scalable multi-agent orchestrations. And things like data sovereignty, ensuring you maintain full control over your data and auditability, being able to trace every single decision an agent makes become absolutely non-negotiable. Critical for trust and compliance. Longer term, the report suggests, our core enterprise systems, ERPs, CRMs, will likely need to become agent native, designed primarily for machine interaction, not just human clicks.
Wow, okay. That is a monumental technical vision, a whole new architecture, smarter LLMs, agent-native systems. But even with all that incredible tech, I'm guessing the report points to something even harder to solve, right? Is the biggest hurdle here still us, the human element?
You've absolutely nailed it. The report is very clear on this. The biggest challenges ultimately won't be technical. They'll be human and organizational. As agents become more autonomous, more proactive actors within the business, the organizational complexities surrounding them are going to be immense.
I can only imagine, how do humans and these increasingly capable agents actually coexist day to day?
That's one of the key questions, human-agent cohabitation. How do we navigate this? When should an agent take the initiative versus when should it defer to a human? How do we maintain effective human oversight without just slowing everything down and losing the benefits? And crucially, how do we build trust? Trust requires transparency, predictable behavior from the agents.
Yeah, trust is huge. What else?
Then there's autonomy control. How do you actually manage agents' independent actions? How do you handle the inevitable edge cases, the unexpected situations? And how do you mitigate risks, like hallucinations? Those plausible sounding, but totally wrong outputs agents can sometimes generate, especially when they're taking actions based on that output. And finally, something the report calls sprawl containment. How do you prevent an uncontrolled explosion of redundant, fragmented, or ungoverned agents? Especially now with low-code and no-code platforms making it easier for anyone to potentially spin up an agent. There's a real risk of creating a new kind of shadow IT.
The AI version of the Wild West. 1,000 little rogue AI sheriffs all trying to run the town their own way, causing chaos and maybe security nightmares.
That's the risk, exactly. So success really hinges not just on building great tech, but on getting these organizational complexities right, managing the human side of AI transformation.
Okay, so bringing it all together, it sounds like AI agents aren't just another tool. They represent a real strategic inflection point, a moment that demands a fundamental reset of how companies approach AI transformation.
That's precisely the conclusion. This isn't something that can just be delegated to the IT department or an innovation lab. It requires top-level strategic focus. It's a CEO mandate. And this reset, the report suggests, needs to happen across 4 dimensions. First, strategy. Moving away from those scattered bottom-up experiments towards focused strategic programs. Programs deeply aligned with critical business priorities, maybe even reimagining whole chunks of the business. Second, the unit of transformation. Shifting focus from isolated single use cases to thinking about end-to-end business process reinvention. Asking those big questions like, what would this entire function look like if agents were running 60% of it?
Right. Not just optimizing a tiny piece of the existing puzzle, but fundamentally redesigning the whole board, driven by a CEO-level vision for what's possible.
Exactly. Third, the delivery model. Evolving away from those siloed AI teams. Instead, building cross-functional transformation squads. These squads need everyone at the table. Business experts, process designers, AI and MLOps, engineers, IT architects, data engineers, working together, deeply integrated. And fourth, the implementation process. Moving beyond just experimentation to industrialized scalable delivery. This includes rigorously estimating and managing the running costs, which, unlike a lot of traditional IT, can actually exceed the initial build costs for Gen AI solutions because of those ongoing compute or inference costs. That's a big shift in budgeting.
That's a really critical point on the running costs easy to overlook. And to make all this work, to operate effectively in this new agentic era, the report highlights 4 critical enablers that need to be in place. First, people. Obvious, but crucial. Upskilling the workforce, fostering a human plus agent collaboration mindset, not fear. Introducing new roles, prompt engineers, agent orchestrators, human-in-the-loop designers. Second, governance. Establishing clear frameworks. Defining levels of agent autonomy, setting decision boundaries, putting robust monitoring and audit mechanisms in place. This is how you prevent that Wild West sprawl we talked about.
Absolutely essential.
Third, technology architecture. Committing to evolving towards that agentic AI mesh and preparing for those future agent-native enterprise systems. And finally, fourth, data. Accelerating data productization, treating data like a product, and extending governance to cover unstructured data, which is the fuel these agents thrive on.
And putting all those enablers in place, driving that 4-dimensional reset. Again, it cannot be delegated. It is absolutely a CEO mandate. The report lays out 3 key actions for CEOs right now. 1, conclude the experimentation phase. Take stock. Do a structured review. Capture the lessons learned, good and bad. Retire the pilots that clearly aren't scaling, and refocus resources on strategic high-impact programs. 2, redesign the AI governance and operating model. Set up a strategic AI council, bringing together leaders from business, HR, data, IT, risk. This council needs to oversee the overall direction, investments, and rigorously track the value delivered against actual business outcomes. No more vanity metrics. And 3, launch a first lighthouse transformation project while simultaneously initializing the Agentic AI Tech Foundation. Don't wait for the perfect foundation. Kick off a high-impact, Agentic AI-driven workflow transformation in a core business area now. Learn by doing. But at the same time, start laying the groundwork for that mesh architecture, for data quality improvements, for the new governance, and for workforce readiness. It's a parallel effort.
Okay, so the message is loud and clear. The key takeaway seems to be, AI agents aren't just an incremental improvement, another step on the ladder. They represent the foundation for a completely next-generation operating model, a total rethink.
That's right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how organizations that act decisively now, not just deploying agents here and there, but truly rewiring their core operations around them. They're the ones who will likely redefine how they think, how they decide, how they execute. This really feels like a moment of strategic divergence. Some companies will leap ahead, powered by this new model.
Yeah.
Others risk getting left behind, still stuck in that Gen AI paradox we started with.
Which brings us back to you, our listener. This whole discussion raises a really important question to maybe mull over. How might your existing workflows, the processes you interact with every single day, whether it's at work or even how you manage things personally, how might they be completely reimagined? Not just tweaked, but totally rethought if AI agents were placed right at their very core, not just bolted onto the side. What new possibilities does that open up for how decisions get made, how work gets done? Not just faster, maybe, but fundamentally different. It feels like the time for just exploring and experimenting is drawing to a close. The time for real transformation, that time is now. And that's our deep dive for today.